You say one word, I say amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You say one word, I say amazing. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Haven't done a Saturday night live stream in a while. I want to welcome everyone in here. Who's in here right now? Welcome, Base to Boomer Chad. Triple thumbs up. Yes, please hit the thumbs up button. That'll be nice. Yo, what up, my dude? What up, Big Ma? I think my daughter says hi too. Harvey says, I was almost asleep, then I got your notification. The Lord told me to wake up. LOL. Awesome to have you, brother. Welcome, Raven. Got a notification, so jumping in. That's nice. What's up? Love you too, bro. Well, how's everyone doing tonight? Tonight we're going to be discussing quite a few topics. Yeah, so I hope your mind is open and ready to receive and discuss some information. You know, what's going on in the world today. That's what I like to do for the most part when it comes to Saturday night live streams. Just to see what's up with the world, see what's going on, all this deception. How can we discern what they are telling us in the media is true or not? Or if it's just like a big stage, you know? So stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about quite a few things. Doing great. That's good to hear. Watching the World Baseball Classic. Nice. Harvey says, I'm blessed. Doing well, says Raven. Glad to be here. Glad to have you. Well, we got about 9 people in here right now, so you know what? We might as well just get straight into it. The first thing I wanted to discuss with you guys was this Ouija board thing, right? Before we discuss it, let me go ahead and play the video. We're going to be playing quite a few videos tonight, so.
How about this? 28 girls hospitalized after playing with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia.
You remember it, don't you? The girls had signs of an anxiety attack. The school's apparently waiting for a diagnosis before providing further information here. But it is worth noting that one mom said her kids always have a good breakfast and the fainting was not due to a lack of food. This isn't the first time this has happened in a Colombian school. Back in November, 11 teenagers collapsed after using a Ouija board at another school in Colombia. It was later reported that at least 5 of them had suffered from food poisoning. There, I will do it to you.
Maybe just don't use Ouija boards.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I vote for.
Those things do creep me out. The ghost and all that paranormal
Have you ever
stuff.
used one, though?
I used to mess around like back in like 8th grade school or something
Sure.
with some buddies, but they're hokey, but I don't know. Any supernatural.
Quick question. Have any of you guys messed with that Ouija board? Because to tell you the truth, I've never messed with one. And I'm very fortunate to to not have messed with one of those things. You know, I remember seeing my cousins, you know, talk about it, and I think one of my first cousins had one, and I believe my sister was the one. My older sister, I'm not sure, sis, if you ever watch this, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But my older sister, I believe so. I believe she's the one that probably didn't play with it, but you know, I'm not sure. But I remember her playing or talking about it, and I think she was messing with it with my first cousin when it comes to that Ouija board. But I'm very fortunate to not mess with that, man. I just never did, you know, and I'm glad I didn't. But this guy here, he admits that back in the 8th grade, he messed with it. So put in the comments below if you've ever messed with that and what was your experience. Feel free to put that in the chat.
Natural stuff. If it is true, I don't ever want to see a ghost or anything like that because I'll be ruined for life.
To Iran, where authorities are investigating what the Iranian government is calling potentially deliberate poisoning of hundreds of schoolgirls. According to senior officials, the girls from schools across the country have been suffering respiratory, cardiac, and neurological symptoms. Iranian media is reporting that the poisonings have been taking place for months.
Hundreds of girls across the country have fallen victim to suspected poison attacks. The alleged poisonings started in November last year in the Shiite holy city of Qom. Reports suggest over 60 schools across 21 of the country's 30 provinces have seen suspected cases. Over 1,000 children have been affected so far, over 1,000 of them. That the alleged poisoning cases might actually be psychogenic in nature, highlighting the fact that almost all sufferers have recovered quickly. The report says that the news of these poisoning cases should be taken with a pinch of salt. The report says there are startling similarities between the cases in Iran and previous incidents reported from Afghanistan and the West Bank. In all these cases, female students in Islamic schools in different time periods exhibited symptoms like headaches, nausea, abdominal pain, and blurred vision. According to the Psychology Today report, the girls in all 3 cases were suffering from a mass psychogenic illness. The report says it follows a pattern: a mass illness, media frenzy, and accusations of state terrorism.
And I'm, playing with the devil.
Of course I did. Anyways, according to the story, nearly 30 schoolgirls in Colombia wanted all the smoke. 28 schoolgirls were hospitalized with anxiety attacks after allegedly playing with Ouija boards at school. Now, according to various reports, the girls suffered from fainting, anxiety, and other symptoms after playing the board game, and they were admitted to a hospital accompanied by parents and school faculty. Info on their diagnosis has not been released. So we all put our hands on the Ouija board and we ask it questions, and it would start moving. And I'm like, "Are you moving it?" And she's like, "No, are you moving it?" And it would spell things. We would ask it questions, and it did move. One time I was playing the game. I got addicted to it. I'm not gonna lie. I left it alone. My phone rang downstairs. My mom said, "Claudia, you get a phone call." I go, wait. I want to test it to see if it's real. I said, "Who's on the phone call board?" And it spelled out Sterling. And when I got on the phone, it was a guy named Sterling that I went to nursery school with when I was 5. So it freaked me out. We ended up throwing it away, or it got missing. It disappeared. No, I think it disappeared. But it did work, y'all. It worked. I'll mess with it now, but it did work when I was young. I'm honest.
And it's funny because you've never lied in our friendship, so I'm going to take your story for face value.
It works.
But I just don't believe it.
So when I come to Miami, do you want to try it?
No, but you bring that shit to my house. Go ahead.
I think it's hilarious that the African American guy on the right side of this woman just says, not out of nowhere, but he says, "Well, I'm gonna take your words for face value because you never lie." Tell me this doesn't seem like a stage, like a script. Why in the world would you say that? Oh yeah, I'm gonna take your words for face value because you know what? You never lie. And just the look on her face, that smile was like, "Oh man, I'm lying." Let me rewind it real quick. Right here.
It worked. I'll mess with it now, but it did work when I was young. I'm honest.
See, I'm honest. And then she goes into this.
And it's funny because you've never lied in our friendship, so I'm going to take your story.
Can they not make it any more obvious? And you know what? What did he say? What did he start off
Funny
with?
because you've never lied in our.
And it's funny because you never lie in our friendship. That's his words. And it's funny because you never lie in our friendship. So I'm going to take your words for face value. Basically, he's saying, I'm going to take what you're saying to be true. But just look at the woman's face, man. You can tell she's lying, man. You can tell she's lying. I mean, maybe I'm just assuming, but come on, man. The guy's not just going to say that out of nowhere. You know, oh yeah, you know what? You never lie in our friendship. So you know what? I'm going to believe what you say. Not too sure about that, man. I'm going to give you guys my opinions. All right? This may not be my final opinions, or maybe it is, on the Ouija board. And after I'm done giving you my opinions, I'll go to the comments or the chat, see what you guys say. And then I'll play a video that Alpha Talks made quite recently. And it was on the Ouija board. I haven't watched it yet. So, as soon as I'm done giving my opinion, I'll read the chat and we'll play that video. But here's my opinions on this Ouija board thing. Notice how in this video here, it showed 1,000 people were sick, right? And then across the world, there was a few more of the people who had similar symptoms. And of course, they're trying to relate it to this Ouija board thing, you know. Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you really think that it's the Ouija board that made them sick? I mean, one can say, well, Tala, it's not a coincidence that 20 females are playing this Ouija board game and then just get sick. Well, that's just, honestly, according to what I'm researching, it's just hearsay. It's just what we see on the news, on the media. 20 females playing with the Ouija board, and then they get sick. So here's my opinions on this Ouija board thing. I don't believe the enemy has the power to literally make people sick like that. I don't believe they do. I believe that they can, in a way, that if you are inviting demons into your life, and if you're playing with this Ouija board, then what you're doing is allowing the Father to move further and further away from you. His protection is further and further away from you. So it's not like the Father doesn't want to protect you, because it is you that is making the decision to allow such demonic entities to enter your life. I'm going to say it again. It's not like the Father doesn't want to protect you. It's the fact that you are making the decision to allow those spirits to dwell within you, in a way, possess you. So with that being said, yes, you are vulnerable to get sick. Okay? The further you're away from the Father, the less and less protection you're going to get. And I'm talking about the spiritual side of things. But as far as the enemy actually having the power to make you sick and feel some type of way, I don't think they have the power to do that. The only power the enemy has is to tempt and deceive. When it comes to demons, the only power they have is to possess. Now, one can say that they can cause harm because there are many cases with people who have been possessed and hurting themselves. Okay? For example, I think it was like the mid or ending of last year in 2022 when all those people were dropping like flies. You know, when they were swatting and they were turning towards their right side. And some of them died. They dropped dead. So I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if that was a possession. I don't know if... All I know is that something wasn't right. And something ain't right about that. And now we got these 20 females playing with the Ouija board and then all of a sudden getting sick. And on the mainstream media, they're pushing this story. You wonder why. And then you got this woman saying, oh yeah, it's true. You know, this Ouija board, this and that, blah, blah, blah. You know? And then her friend is telling her that he believes that she's telling the truth, which I find bogus. It's a bunch of baloney. So that's my take on the Ouija board topic. Let me go to the chat, and then after I go to the chat, we're gonna play the video from Alpha Talks and then move from there. Ouija, yes, Conrad. Welcome, Conrad. Yeah, I like baseball. I've been to a Seattle Mariners game once with my father and my older brother back in the late 90s. It was when Ken Griffey was playing. So, yeah, I can dig baseball. Was not good. I've never messed with. That's good. That's good you didn't. I called a spirit out on being a demon one night. It calmed to be a 6-year-old child. Raven says, when a kid, I went to a friend's house and they had one and watched them mess with it. I don't recall having actually used one. Not comfortable, even just to watch. I agree with you, Raven. Wasn't happy. Was play the Ouija board with a who claimed to be a white witch. Wow, interesting. We're all brothers and sisters of Jesus Christ in this chat. Amen. This was before I truly trusted Jesus Christ, but my parents had planted enough seeds that I wasn't deceived by this demon. That's good. That's good to know. Is the Seattle Mariners your favorite team? Not really. I don't really have a favorite team anymore. I haven't watched baseball in forever. But I do know very popular players like Ichiro, you know, and what's his name? Something Garcia, I think it is. But yeah, I don't know too much. Harvey says the girl I played the game with got mad because I didn't believe the spirit was a 6-year-old boy who died. That's good. That's good you didn't believe it. That was our last date. Thank God. That's good. That's good to know, Harvey. All right, so now we're going to move on to Alpha Talks Ouija video. And I'm going to put this one in full screen, so enjoy.
Dozens of girls collapse at Colombian school after playing with Ouija boards. Almost 30 girls were reportedly hospitalized after they played with Ouija boards at their school in Colombia. 28 children were taken to a local hospital. Some have fainted and showed signs of anxiety and other symptoms while playing with one of the infamous spirit boards at the Galeras Educational Institution in the city of Pasto. There were 28 possible cases of anxiety in school students, school head Hugo Torres said in an official statement. The current condition of the girls who were hospitalized have not yet made public. Some parents are demanding to know why the girls had access to Ouija boards during school hours. About a year ago, I made a video called The Strange History of the Ouija Board. I want to bring this topic back because much more information has come out concerning the Ouija board. So what is a Ouija board? A Ouija board is also known as a spirit board or talking board. It's a flat board marked with the letters of the Latin alphabet, the numbers 0 through 9, and the word yes or no, occasionally hello and goodbye. Along with various symbols and graphics, it uses a planchette, a small heart-shaped piece of wood or plastic, as a movable indicator to spell out messages during a seance. And a seance is an attempt to communicate with spirits. Participants place their fingers on the planchette and it is moved about the board to spell out words. Ouija is a trademark of Hasbro, inherited from the Parker brothers, but is often used generically to refer to any talking board. Spiritualists in the United States believe that the dead were able to contact the living and reportedly use a talking board very similar to a modern Ouija board. Spiritualism is the belief that the living can communicate with the dead, which is also known as necromancy. This concept was already popular in Europe when it ignited across the United States in the mid-19th century. America's obsession with spiritualism can largely be traced to the
By the way, I want to just mention to you guys that, speaking of necromancy, Mormons, Latter-day Saints, they practice that. So, just thought you guys know.
Fox sisters of Hydesville, New York, who interpreted messages from spirits that rapped on furniture and walls. At first, talking boards were something people made themselves. Among these early talking board enthusiasts was Charles Kennard. Charles Kennard didn't seek answers from the great beyond as much as profit. He was one of those guys who was always into 7 to 10 businesses, always looking for some cool opportunity. Robert Murch, the president of the Talking Board Historical Society and one of the nation's foremost experts on Ouija boards, told The Hustle. Kennard partnered with an undertaker and woodworker named E.C. Rake. Kennard suggested they go into business together, but Rake failed to see a profit in something people could make themselves. However, Kennard saw potential and kept at it. After his fertilizer business dried up due to competition and drought in 1889, he moved to Baltimore to start anew. There he met patent attorney Elijah Bond. Bond was into Kennard's business idea, and it didn't hurt that the Bond sister-in-law, Helen Peters, was a medium, which is someone who claims they can communicate with the dead. In letters Murch uncovered, Kennard wrote of a seance Peters held in April of 1890, during which he claimed they asked the board what it wanted to be called, and it spelled out Ouija, O-U-I-J-A, and told the group it meant good luck. The mission of the creators of the Ouija board was to sell as many boards as possible. And to make things even more strange, the Ouija board actually has a patent. Bond's role was to trademark the word Ouija and patent the board. Per Murch's research, the patent office had rejected similar devices because the creators couldn't prove they were summoning ghosts. So Bond brought Peters along. The pair were shuffled from clerk to clerk until they reached the office's chief. The chief clerk walks in and says, "Look, I don't know you and you don't know me, but if this contraption can spell my name, you've got yourself a patent." With Peters and Bond at the board, it revealed his name letter by letter. The supposedly shaken clerk gave Bond his patent, and it gave Kennard a new tagline for the Ouija board and advertisement: proven at the patent office. The early 1900s, the Ouija board was a multi-million-dollar business. Now to this day, there are many who believe that the Ouija board allows us to pierce the veil and seek advice from what lies beyond, or those who are so afraid of summoning a demon that they refuse to be near one. Now, possession states are well known to psychiatrists, and they understand that there is a widespread belief in many cultures that people can contact spirits of the dead or demonic entities by using a Ouija board. The largest outbreak of illness attributed to the Ouija board took place between October 2006 and June 2007 at a girls-only Catholic boarding school near Mexico City. Students at the girls' town school reported a variety of symptoms, including headaches and difficulty walking. Some students can only walk with the help of their friends. Symptoms would suddenly go away and just as suddenly reoccur. Mexican psychiatrist Nachila Loa Zavala investigated the outbreak and diagnosed it as a case of mass hysteria and traced it back to a student who had been using a Ouija board to try to influence the outcome of a school basketball game. So it's very interesting, even psychologists who do not believe in the existence of evil spirits are telling people to tread lightly when messing with Ouija boards. Dr. Robert Bartholomew, who has a PhD and is an American-born medical sociologist, and is an honorary member of the Department of Psychological Medicine, stated in Psychology Today, while he doesn't believe in the existence of spirits and demons, people should tread carefully when using Ouija boards because of the powerful emotions they can evoke. For instance, sometimes Ouija boards are used to attempt to communicate with deceased loved ones. This is why I suggest that those with a history of anxiety disorders, dissociative or trance states, and who have an absolute certainty in the existence of the supernatural, would be better off steering clear of Ouija-type games. He states that it is better to be safe than sorry. So even psychologists and psychiatrists are telling people to stay clear of Ouija board-type games. Now, of course, these psychologists explain these symptoms away as being something physical, because most don't believe in the existence of a spiritual world. However, I believe that when you mess with the devil's devices, you are opening yourselves up to wicked spirits. The Bible makes it very clear that we should stay clear of necromancy, which is the practice of communicating with the dead. And the reason for that is because you're not even communicating with the dead, you are actually communicating with evil spirits pretending to be the dead. So it's better to tread lightly when you're considering messing with the devil's devices. I hope you guys found this video very fruitful, and I hope this convinces you not to mess with these things, and to not be ignorant of the devil's devices, and to also be very cautious. As the Bible says, we shouldn't be ignorant of the devil's devices,
a developing
or mess with
story this
necromancy,
morning,
or try and contact familiar spirits. So thank you guys for watching, and if you would like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon. The link is in the bio down below. Again, I appreciate all the support. Please like, share, and comment your thoughts in the comment section below.
Alright, so that was Vitaly's take on the and his research on Ouija board. And if you guys want to subscribe to his channel, just type in Alpha Talks with a Z at the end, and there you go. So the next topic, well, hold on, before we go there, what's your favorite MLB ballpark? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know too much about MLB. You can't pray in school today, but you play the Ouija board. Wow. Right. Bruh, I don't deal with... Welcome, Mathis. Good to have you, brother. I don't deal with that black magic or anything like into it. That's good. I know some people say the more you believe in that stuff, the more that crazy stuff happens to you. Hey, I wouldn't see. Why not? You know, like they're inviting it. Got that right, brother. You believe New Jerusalem will be a cub or straight up city skyline with a wall surrounding it, and that you could view it from out in the country, the kingdom of God. I don't believe we can view it from outside. We have to be accepted into the kingdom of God in order to even see it. But I strongly believe that the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, I strongly believe that those colors have something to do with the kingdom. But we just can't see it. We can only see the lights, because the same colors of the Northern Lights are the same colors of the gemstones that are being used within the kingdom of God. So it's pretty amazing. Exactly, they are not dead people, they are demons. Yeah. Yep. So the next topic I wanted to discuss was the train derailments. And before say anything about it, let's play this real quick.
To a developing story this morning. For the third time this year, a train has derailed. In two of those incidents, the trains were carrying hazardous materials, and we're going to walk you through this timeline. It's been 2 weeks since a Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, spilling toxic chemicals. The Environmental Protection Agency is now cleaning up that spill, but neighbors are concerned about the health risk. 10 days later, a train derailed in Texas after a semi-truck crashed into it. Hazmat crews responded, but there were no leaks from the cars, just a fuel leak. And just yesterday, another Norfolk Southern train derailed in Michigan. Hazardous materials were also involved. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says that he wants Congress to take action to address rail safety. The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating all three incidents. We'll keep you posted.
Being
And
this
here's
close.
here's another one. I believe it's in Washington
This
State.
morning's train derailment near Anacortes. The Unified Command consists of the EPA, the Washington Department of Ecology, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, Skagit County Emergency Management, and the Swinomish Indian Tribal Community. I'm about to introduce each of our speakers, everybody who is participating in the cleanup here. First, we have Earl Cowan, who's the Chief of Police for the Swinomish Police Department. Mike Sibley, who's the Federal On-Scene Coordinator for the Environmental Protection Agency. Amanda Howe, who's the State On-Scene Coordinator for the Washington Department of Ecology. We have Justin Piper, who's with BNSF. And we have Hans Call, who's with Skagit County Department of Emergency Management. I'm going to invite Chief Cowan to say a few words.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Swinomish. So just to give you guys a quick rundown, shortly after midnight last night, we experienced a train derailment, as you see behind us. Our department, Fire District 13, and assistant teams from the refinery were able to come out and set initial containment, and then throughout the night.
This is just crazy, man. They're making it so obvious that they got an agenda, right? I mean, we've got one. The first one was in Ohio, and then there was one in Norfolk Southern train derails in Alabama, and then what was the other one? West Virginia. So Ohio, Alabama, West Virginia. Where else? And then Washington. So I believe altogether there's about 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's crazy, man.
Early morning, we transitioned over to BNSF and their contractors, and they've been doing fine work behind us here. So that's where we are currently, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike Sibley, the Federal On-Scene Coordinator.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Sibley, Federal On-Scene Coordinator for the EPA. I'm representing the lead agency in this response. We had about 2,500 gallons spill of soil from one of the locomotives.
So they said they had diesel spills. It spills about 5,000 gallons of diesel. What is going on, man? What is going on with all these train derailments, man? You know what the crazy thing is? As we're live streaming right now, I literally, I'm going to be straight honest with you guys. As I'm playing Alpha Talk's video and getting ready to play the next topic, which was the train derailments, I literally just found out that Washington State had a train derailment, which is the video that I'm playing. The 5,000 gallons of diesel spilled. I get that there's crisis actors, but at the same time, one thing that you and I have to agree on is that not every news is fake. Not all of it is fake. But I can't help but look at this like it's fake. I mean, it's not the train derailments itself is not fake, but what's that called? The agenda behind it. It's like it's a setup. They've been setting this up for a reason. And I still can't quite, understand what. What is it? Who, what, when, where, and why? Why? What's the reason? I know there's agenda behind it. But what? I mean, what do you guys think? Would love to hear what you guys say. When the veil is removed, we will see it. Yeah. I believe someone kicked me off the chat. I'm back. People need to have complete and total faith in our Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Nothing can hurt anyone unless the Father allows it. But yeah, there's definitely something with this train derailment thing, man. And I'm not gonna stress about it, but it's one of those things that when you're somebody like me, it's hard to just let it slide, Like I said, I'm not stressing about it, but it's like I said, it's one of those things you constantly think about because you want to know the agenda behind it. My life is in the Father's hands and nothing else. Amen, brother. Welcome, Armored Raven. If there are 5 crash sites, it probably makes a pentagram. Wonder where the center of it is. Good point. Yeah, I mean, the past decade, how many train derailments have we heard of? And if there were some, but they just never decided to put it in, or they never decided to publicize it or put it on the news, then maybe it'll seem a little bit more realistic to me, and that it's more likely that trains do derail this often. But within this amount of time, these are from different states, and they're all derailing within 30 days, within a month. Or am I wrong? Is it within a month? Still, it's very recent. Like I said, if they're not, if this has been happening, but it just didn't get publicized for some reason in the past, then like I said, I would understand that, okay, yeah, this happens. Because, they only like to put stuff on the news if they have an agenda, for the most part, right? So, like I said, if train derailments do happen, and if you're someone who is like a train specialist, or about railroad tracks and stuff like that, then would love to get your thoughts on this. And if train derailments do happen every year, 5, 10 times a year, or in this case, a month, so, but if not, if train derailments aren't likely to happen or common to happen, then they definitely have an agenda. Especially with these chemical spills, the one in Ohio, and then now you have diesel spill, and I don't know what about the other ones. Let me see. I saved some screenshots. Let's see. Train derailments. All right, let's go to this screen. Right there. So you see, I screenshotted these. This one here is the Norfolk Southern train derailment. Can you guys still see that? And then this one is the train keep derailing all over the country, including Thursday in Alabama. What's going on? Right? They want to ask us that. They're asking us that. What's going on? What's going on, guys? Oh, what's going on with all these train derailments? West Virginia train derailment leaks diesel. Okay, so the West Virginia train also leaks diesel and oil into one of the North America's oldest and federally protected rivers. Okay, so they're contaminating the river. Okay. Rock slide derails West Virginia. It's the same one. 3 injured. Wow. Okay. 3 injured. Railroads warned about car issue that could lead to derailments. Yeah. Crazy. Like I said, guys, I'm I'm not sure what's going on here, but Woodward TV did make a video on, you know what, we can watch it. I hope I don't get copyrighted. I'm not monetizing this live stream, so it should be fine. Let's go to Woodward and let's check his video out. I believe he made like 2 videos on it, and let's see what he says. By the way, guys, today's gonna be like a chill night. Just gonna be talking about a few topics that I got lined up, so stay tuned. Right now I'm going to Woodward's video. Again, this live stream is not monetized, so I'm not really worried about it. Where is his channel? There it is. Woodward. By the way, put in the chat if you guys are subscribed to Woodward TV. One thing that I noticed about the guy, though, I honestly strongly feel that he knows the earth is flat, but because he has so many subscribers, he has almost 500,000, and because he has that much, you know, of course he's not going to talk about the earth being flat. Come on, guys, he's not going to do that. Okay. Chemical plan. Oh, he made 3 videos. So we'll watch the first one. And let me know in the chat if you guys want to watch part 2 and part 3. They're about 15 minutes long. Like I said, I'm going to be chilling. So let's go here.
Distractions, distractions, distractions. Do you know why people keep saying that about everything that happens? Because there is so much happening at the same time. Your attention is just being diverted to whatever you care about the most. Now, about a week ago, there was a train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. There is Palestine, Ohio, which is on the west end of Ohio, and then there is East Palestine, which is at the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania, between Akron and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the closest major city to East Palestine. Salem, Ohio is also close to East Palestine. So what happened was the train derailed just outside of town as the railroad runs right through the middle of town. Now, when that happened, chemicals started leaking and boiling out of the tanks, and they decided that instead of risking an explosion, they would just burn the chemicals and release them into the atmosphere in what they call a controlled burn. They call it a controlled burn, and all that means is that they won't let the fire burn the whole town down. They don't control the chemicals being released into the environment. I don't think people truly understand the level of severity here. It reminds me of a song most of you have probably never heard of. It's by a band called Gunship, and the song is called Dark All Day. I want to read a few of the lyrics here, but you can go listen to the song on their channel if you like. In the first verse, the lyrics are, "As he takes from me my last breath, inhale. I'm picking up the scent. What a hell of a feeling. It is dark all day, but there is something in the sky that glows. What a hell of a feeling with such a brilliant mind. Can you feel those chemicals in the air tonight?" Then it goes into the chorus, and in the second verse, it sounds like they are talking about lighting a fire and then dragging the river for chemicals. Listen. What a hell of a day to embrace disorder. and there is something in your eyes that burns. Light up, drag the river. Can you see? There are chemicals in the air tonight. So what we have to understand first and foremost is that we are not being given the whole story. They never give us the whole story. We have to get that from other people. We have to get the real news from people who live in the area. Next, the chemicals that were on that train, there wasn't just vinyl chloride. There was 150 rail cars. 20 of them had chemicals. And I believe only 4 or 5 of them were vinyl chloride. So what was it that they were carrying that they burned into the atmosphere, you ask? According to a letter from the EPA, Southern train comprised of roughly 150 rail cars derailed. Approximately 20 rail cars were listed as carrying hazardous materials. Cars containing vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, ethyl hexyl acrylate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl ether are known to have been and continue to be released to the air, surface soils, and surface waters. Now, when you burn vinyl chloride, it becomes hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen chloride likes to bind to water, whether that's liquid water or water vapor. When it does that, it becomes hydrochloric acid, okay? Butyl acrylate is another toxic, flammable chemical that they use to make paint, coatings, caulks, sealants, adhesives. The vapors from this stuff can form explosive mixtures in the air, and it's heavier than other chemicals, so it settles quickly into the soil and water, leaving a slick film on water surfaces. It gets into the sewer systems where it can be a fire hazard because it's flammable, and that it could ignite in the sewer systems or in basements. With ethyl hexyl acrylate, the vapors cause drowsiness and convulsions. Of course, all these chemicals irritate the eyes, burn the lungs, and irritate and burn the skin. They use this chemical again to make paints and plastics. And this is another acidic chemical that will react well with butyl acrylate. Now, ethylene glycol monobutyl ether is a lot like butyl acrylate. It's used in varnishes and paints and solvents. It reacts with bases, aluminum, and oxidizing. It forms peroxides when exposed to air and light, and it will eat away at some plastics and rubber. It's also a heavy chemical, so it settles in sewers and basements as well. You know, there are a couple of waterways, Leslie's Run and Sulphur Run, which is a strange name. And these two water systems flow from East Palestine. It flows from Pennsylvania to the Ohio River and all the way down through Ohio into West Virginia and Maryland, then Virginia, North Carolina. It flows from East Palestine. It runs down and across through Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, through Tennessee, into the Mississippi River, into Louisiana, and into the waterways of Texas. This water system that is connected is also connected to the Missouri River Basin, the Arkansas White Red River Basin, the Upper Mississippi River Basin. That's almost half the U.S. Now, I don't know what the level of contamination will be along these water systems, but that really comes down to how much of those chemicals was released, and there is no safe amount to ingest, folks. I don't see how East Palestine is any longer habitable. Fish are dying. It started around 3,000 estimated dead, but it's probably in the tens of thousands now, floating down the waterways. The forest wildlife are getting sick and dying. Remember, the animals drink from those water systems, they don't use faucets and filters. These animals are stepping out of the woods after having a sip and dropping dead. Children are complaining about breathing problems. People are getting headaches. It's a mess. Look, these chemicals are in the environment now. They don't just go away either. Sometimes there is weather. You get rain, you get snow, you get flooding. Just a swish and swirl of chemicals. When the grass stops growing and the trees start dying, then you know you have a serious problem on your hands. Acid rain is also another concern. Cancer is a major concern down the line for anybody living around that area. That's always a matter when we're dealing with toxins and chemicals. Now, vinyl chloride is a chlorinated hydrocarbon. And when a chlorinated hydrocarbon is exposed to high temperatures, you get phosgene gas, which is one of the most deadly chemical weapons used in World War I. According to the CDC, phosgene was used extensively during World War I as a choking, pulmonary agent. Among the chemicals used in war, phosgene was responsible for the large majority of deaths. And what I just said is a fact. Folks, if you watch this channel, there is no way you believe in coincidences. And for this particular train holding these particular chemicals, I don't even understand how one train was allowed to carry 20 cars of flammable, highly toxic chemicals in the first place. Why don't we just power trains with nuclear reactors while we're at it? I mean, is this standard? Are there many trains like this with thousands of gallons of flammable, low flash point chemicals? The flash point of chemicals is the minimum temperature needed to ignite chemical. Those chemicals had a flash point of 120 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, but the vinyl chloride had a flash point of negative 110 degrees, which means it would ignite at any temperature. You breathe wrong and that stuff will ignite. I mean, anything below a zero flash point, I don't see how that's safe to carry on a train. What if the train derails? Oh, I guess we didn't think about that. Listen, I understand these chemicals have to be transported some way, somehow. But how about you take it slow? I mean, how fast was this train going that it derailed? Why did it derail in the first place? Well, they don't know now. Right now, it was just an accident, which is still under investigation. Now, according to the National Transportation Board, 38 rail cars derailed and a fire ensued, which damaged an additional 12 cars. There were 20 total hazardous material cars in the train, consist 11 of which derailed. And here's the list of what derailed. Those that are highlighted are the 11 rail cars with the hazardous chemicals. So it looks like they lost a lot of malt liquor, some polyethylene, lube oil, propylene glycol, benzene, which is another toxic, flammable chemical that is known to cause cancer in humans. So they just carry all this stuff on one train and they just wanted to mosey along the railroad through town after town. You know, there was a movie released on Netflix called White Noise, which depicts a train explosion in Salem, Ohio, which is right northwest to East Palestine, almost the next town over. Some of the extras in the movie were from East Palestine. It's amazing to me how they said that the people who evacuated, they told them that it was safe to return home. If that was me, I'm moving out of town. People are coming back home to dead pets, dead livestock, the air stinks. I don't know. You know, folks, There have been quite a few train derailments around the world lately, and a common cause of these derailments is track buckling from extreme heat and cold. And with these crazy weather patterns, the train tracks and roads have started buckling in many places. They can't keep up with the road and track maintenance. The Earth is changing geographically, and so we're probably going to see more tracks and streets buckling. The crust on the Earth seems to be changing. Soon you will start to see sinkholes opening up again. Now, in the case of this train derailment in Ohio, they say it was an accident, but we really don't know. All I have to say is accident my ass. With all these chemical explosions at facilities and trains and trucks, they are spilling a lot of chemicals and putting a lot of toxins into the environment worldwide, accidentally. That's all for now. I would like to
I got a neighbor, and right now he's puking blood because he works right there in the main part of it.
People are going back to work because they have to.
They need that money. Not like these big boys in Norfolk. They're sitting behind a desk or sitting at home, kicked back in their chair, enjoying themselves. Because they got the money coming in. Do they care about us? No, they don't even care about their own employees.
Sometimes a disaster is so overwhelming that it shocks people out of their political corners and brings really big problems into focus. That's what it's like in East Palestine. I grew up in this county. I lived 2 counties south on Route 7. The last time I was in East Palestine was for the Sweethearts Dance in 2007. I came back to find out what happened when a nearly 2-mile-long Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed and was detonated in spectacular fashion on the edge of town. We've been here for over a week. We've seen national figures and camera crews come and go, but what gets lost in so much of that coverage is that the people here still have a ton of unanswered questions. How safe is the air and water really? Who, if anyone, has the juice to square up with a $55 billion company that treats disasters as the cost of doing business? And will anyone step up to lead this time?
Do I have to wait until I have an answer or my kids are sick before you guys are going to do anything?
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Care to do an interview?
Yeah, I'll do one. My name is Luke Lavin. I live a couple blocks from here on Alice Street. We're in East Palestine, pretty much right ground zero for where the train derailed. Friday night, my wife and I were playing Call of Duty, and we heard some banging around, and we didn't know what the heck it was, so we paused it. You know, we come out here, and it was a spectacle, really. I kept telling my wife, "Oh my God, this is big. This is bigger than we're going to even ever imagine."
The train derailed on the edge of town late at night on February 3rd. 5 cars were carrying toxic vinyl chloride. Left alone, the damaged cars would have gone off like a bomb. So officials on the scene did what's being called a controlled release. A mushroom cloud of toxic chemicals filled the sky, stretching out for miles.
It was like hundreds of miles, like that shit was out there. And I was just silent for a moment. That feeling, you know, when people are gonna suffer or you know, something's horribly wrong with this.
2 days later, government and company-sponsored tests declared the air and water safe, and a mandatory evacuation order for residents in a 1-mile radius of the derailment was lifted. Minutes later, the trains were back on the tracks. And in the days and weeks since, residents have gotten very few answers to their many questions. So Luke, walk us through what communication has been like of really important information after this derailment.
I'm going to give you the shortest answer possible. There isn't any. I mean, really, from Norfolk anyways. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they can't even give you the answers to...
I'm just going to throw it out there. These guys could be actors. That's just the truth. They could be actors.
Some simple questions that even a little...
And keyword, could be. There's a possibility. I'm not confirming that, yeah, they are actors, but This is coming from More Perfect Union, and they've got over 190K subscribers. So you got to be careful with what, we believe in. For the most part, like I said, you always have to discern. But this train derailment thing is one side of my brain is saying that it's just a distraction, just to distract us from what's really going on, which I'm about to talk about. It's the next topic. But the other side is telling me that it could possibly be deadly chemicals, I mean, like when you watch this little documentary here, they're saying if they're not actors and what they say is the truth, then I guess people are getting sick, and being put in the emergency room because of the chemicals. And the way Woodward was talking about how deadly these chemicals are, you can just get the gist of how dangerous those chemicals are. But if that's the case, then I kind of feel that there should be a lot more. There should be a lot more deaths, or people being affected by this chemical spill in East Palestine. But anyway, that's my take on that's what I think about the derailments. Before we move on to the next topic, I'll go ahead and read the chat. It's just another to deceive people into worrying. Yeah, I agree. I agree that is a part of it. It is to cause fear. If you can have the people fear, then you can control. Sleep well, Big Mao. Oh, got to see you. Yeah, have a good night, Big Mao. Their magical date, 3/22/223, is approaching. Would love for you to elaborate on that, Armored. What are the town names for all 5? I just mentioned them. But yeah, if you just rewind, you can see what they are. I know a lot of people are suffering from this train wrecks, but I still say people who trust in Christ will be protected. That is just my opinion from experience. Right, you're not too far from the train derailments, Harvey, so yeah, what's your experience like? Have you been noticing any weird weather change, or have you experienced any sort of symptoms of sickness from these chemicals? If so, put it in the chat. I'm talking about the people who truly trust God, not just people who claim to be Christian. Yes. Faith and trust are the only chance any of us have. Indeed. Not just in this life, but more important, the next. Oh yeah. Welcome, Raven. Says complacency or sabotage or false flags to further their control agenda. All about control. Yes, and that's what I was saying earlier. We can't just look at it, for face value and just, oh yeah, it's wow, train derailments, chemical spill. Ooh, creepy. So what, they're gonna do some chemical spills near my town? And it does put fear in you. I mean, just look at the people who are living there. By design, in my book, yeah. I agree, Harvey. Welcome, Chad Jones. Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. No worries. Better late than never. Nothing happens that isn't part of our Father's plan. Faith and trust are the only thing I have today. Oh, got it. Psyops for their glory. Look what anarchy we have caused. Now who do we blame? Right. I blame Satan. Yep. Satan wants control. Too bad. Jesus is already King of Kings. Yeah. Praise God. Chad, glad to see you, brother. Back at you, Harvey. You always see. Welcome, Loyal Tangi. Good to have you with us, brother. You always see through the veil, Tala. All glory to God. Hey, Loyal, glad to see you, brother. Hey, brother Harvey, good to be here. It is all about control and division. Yes, yes. No problems with the train wreck. Yep. All right. So the next topic I wanted to discuss was digital currency. What do you guys know about digital currency? And like I said earlier, there could be a reason behind these train derailments, right? They have an agenda. They always do. And believe it or not, it could be related to the banking collapse and digital currency. Those of you who don't know, FedNow is set to launch in July. What the instant payment service could mean for a digital dollar and stablecoins. So look forward to July. Something is going to happen, guys. Something huge is going to happen. Okay? Take a look at this.
This is like the SNL crisis in the 80s.
We're not talking about a failure of this bank, but that banks could, fail.
So
that's not off the question.
This is clearly an example of something breaking. We can assume that there's serious contagion here.
The biggest bank collapse since the 2008 financial crisis, and it shut down today. It's called Silicon Valley Bank, and it is one of the tech industry's largest lenders, also lends to individuals across the country. It is now under control of the federal government. It was a sudden implosion, and it came after a run on deposits. So the bank stock lost 80% of its value this week, 60% in one day alone, yesterday. This morning, shares halted. It was over quickly. And then police showed up at the bank headquarters in California today. You're looking at that here. Customers reportedly even lined up at a bank branch on Park Avenue in New York City. The NYPD showed up there. Those customers demanding their deposits back. Now, to be clear, Silicon Valley Bank is a huge bank, and its customers include individuals as well as household names you may know, like Airbnb, Pinterest, Cisco. And this is a way bigger story. The entire banking industry is feeling the impact. U.S. banks at one point had lost over $100 billion in stock market value in just 2 days. And there are fears now that this could spread beyond banking to other parts of the economy.
Well, it looks like they're not wasting any time in escalating this financial crisis. If you watched the last series on what happens at the end of the Bible, maybe right now you can better understand why Yah placed that topic in such a high priority for me to communicate. We are approaching the time of transition in this world, where everyone will be affected. You can probably feel it and see it for yourself by now. And the focus of that last series was for you to focus on the promises and not about all the events that could bring fear and anxiety. If you've been following this channel over the years, none of what is currently happening should be new or surprising to you. In fact, it is my sincere hope that while many of you heard about this banking collapse, you are already built up in enough understanding of what is to come that you're able to move in strength, not fear, while all of this propaganda and the narratives are forming. Over the years, I have made so much content on explaining the coming economic collapse that I often feel like I don't need to expound on these things anymore. But as these events have been transpiring, I realize that it may be difficult for people to see through the narratives that come through the mainstream versus understanding the overall agenda. Last week, there were many comments asking that this banking collapse be discussed. And so I wanted to make sure that we covered it, so that no believer is led by fear or moving according to the way that the world desires you to move. Be very clear that what is happening right now is an agenda of fear that will lead the world into a new financial system. If you do not focus on the narrative more than you simply understand the agenda, you will not be moved by them. The masses that are asleep are being made to be led through fear. Those that are attached to this world and their possessions will be led into darkness. Be clear on that. Those that are awake and live in trust in Yah will be led into the fulfillment of Yah's promise for all of us, being led into his kingdom, which we thoroughly discussed in that last series. If you can understand how wonderful Yah's timing is, you can see how through that last series, he has decided to comfort us with understanding of what is to come through his promises, not being led by fear about all those other events that will happen to everyone else. Through understanding the wonderfulness of end times Bible prophecy, he has directed us to not live through fear of what is to come, but to hold on to his promises with hope and trust in him. If from the last series you understand more about Bible prophecy and Yah's coming kingdom, your role now is to be one who lives in truth and depends on Yah to bring you through it all. Now, that does not mean that you will not be tested and that the devil is not going to try to provoke you through fear. No, these things will come at you. But you have been built up to be set free from this world system and the direction that is taking the masses that have not made Yahuwah their focus. This banking collapse is a very important leg to their takeover, but there's a lot more to come. I want to make sure that all believers have proper understanding of what they are seeing. So we're going to discuss what has happened over the past week or so, along with what else is to come. If you are a Kodashim, a set-apart one, who is obedient to Yahuwah and holds the testimony of Yahusha, you have nothing to fear. This banking collapse is the beginning of the separation of kingdoms. It is the satanic kingdom versus Yah's kingdom. While all this is unraveling, it may be a little unsettling as the world as we know it is about to change. But if you hold onto your faith and trust in Yahuwah, you will come out of this refined as gold, able to obtain the promises he has for those who love him. So let's understand the banking collapse and how believers should react to it. Let's begin.
News today that reminded so many of us of the unsettling times that came with those banking failures back in 2008. Tonight, a bank has been seized by state and federal regulators. This is the biggest bank failure since 2008, and this evening, so many customers demanding to know, where is our money? Now, this bank, the Silicon Valley Bank, a favorite of the tech industry. Customers today rushing to withdraw their money, finding branch offices closed and ATMs not working. Tonight here, the White House is pressed. Could other banks be next, and what safeguards are in place?
Okay, so first thing, I would recommend, if you don't have an understanding of finance and economics, to not follow the mainstream media as they discuss what is happening. Like, if you now see that there's a problem and then you just go to the news to see what is happening, you can be misdirected and misguided. Like, for example, I have family that have ignored most of my warnings about the world. And as these events have happened, I asked them if they heard about it. At first they said no, because they do not follow what is happening in the world. But sometime after, they went to the news to find out what's going on. And when they do that, they are just regurgitating the narrative that the mainstream media is giving them, which is now making them just a puppet, speaking thoughts that the media has given them to think on the subject. But what they don't realize is that what they're saying out their mouths about what they think is happening is not necessarily the truth. It's just how the media wants you to believe is the truth. So just using them as an example, my advice to all is to not follow the mainstream media, because their job is not to inform you, but to indoctrinate you into following their narrative. Now, I do recognize that this may be hard for those that have just come into the truth, but please understand that
I need to replay that so you guys can hear that.
if you're just maybe hard to indoctrinate you, follow the mainstream media. So just using them as an example, my advice to all is to not follow the mainstream media, because their job is not to inform you, but to indoctrinate you into following their narrative. Now, I do recognize that this may be hard for those that have just come into the truth, but please understand that if you're just waking up, your best bet is to avoid the media and understand these things from views outside the mainstream. So in watching this video, I'm not going to regurgitate all the same information the media has been giving you for the past week or more. I don't care about their narrative and how they say we got here. I don't care about any of that. The point you need to understand is that this is not by accident. It is carefully planned and calculated. So what's the end goal? This video will speak to the financial aspect of the agenda. It's to move the world from the current financial system with paper fiat currency to a digital financial system with digital currencies on the blockchain, cryptocurrencies. The end goal is a complete change of the financial system where all money will be digital. We will first be going to central bank digital currencies. But I don't want to get ahead of myself here. That's where we're going, and everything that is happening is to provoke people by fear and panic so they can be herded into the new system. If you attach to their narrative, you will be attached to their plans. So, with all that said, if you really want to understand what has been happening, we actually need to go backwards. So the first thing you might want to understand is that right now, they're labeling this as a banking collapse. But again, this is the mainstream narrative to keep you out of line with what is really occurring. Yes, banking is a problem, but it is not the problem. The problem actually is with debt. This is a debt crisis. And being that banks are on the front lines of debt, this crisis is being attached to them so that people still are not completely free and they still make the hole deeper with debt. I've made a great deal of videos about debt for a long time, so I will not go over it in great detail in this video. I'll just give an overview. This all started after the financial collapse of 2008. This is when the housing collapse caused a Great Recession, and in order to stop a full collapse of the system, the government engaged in bailouts, 0% interest rates, and quantitative easing. For many of you that are in your 20s and your 30s, you may not understand any of this because you were a child when all of this was going on. But everything that happened in 2008 was a big deal that brought you to where you are right now. So if you don't understand what happened at that point, you can't really understand where you are right now. So if you don't understand what happened in 2008, please do not feel that you have a good take and understanding of what is happening in the world as you live in it today. Just need to make that clear to the younger ones. But like I was saying, since that period in 2008, we have had about 12 years of rate at 0%, which means that the world has been borrowing money for free for more than a decade. And from this, the debt levels of the world have run up drastically. And while the debt levels were also going up, they destroyed the value of the currencies of the world because they were able to print money without consequence. The United States, above all, was able to do this because they have the world reserve currency. So they were able to print the most. And then to keep up, the other central banks of the world printed as well. Basically, what I'm explaining is that since 2008, the debt levels of the world have been driven up.
You guys gotta admit. By the way, welcome, JR. Good to have you with us, man. But you guys have to admit, Truth Unedited is saying a whole lot of facts, okay? And I know a lot of you are gonna be like, well, he doesn't believe the millennial reign of Christ passed. I don't care. I don't care if he doesn't believe that. You know, that's not the main point of this channel, okay? Truth and Edit, he has a whole lot of stuff that I would recommend you guys take. I mean, of course, he has a different belief system when it comes to millennial reign. He just launched a video, what was it, last week, on the millennial reign. But for the most part, he's got some really good stuff, man. Just go to the chat real quick before we continue the video. Chad Jones says, it is all about control and division. Yes. Tangi, no problems with a train wreck. Okay, here. 322 is a skull and bones number. Oh, I see. It is a special date to the enemy. Something will happen this date, not certain what. Okay. Thanks for letting me know that. I'm going to look forward to that. See what happens on the 22nd. The 22nd will be a Wednesday. So next week, Wednesday. Do you think this will cause a domino effect with banks? Whether it does or does not, it's not going to stop whatever agenda they have in mind. And I wouldn't be surprised if digital currency is implemented within this year. So, I mean, they did say in July. They did say something about July. So, Harvey says, I seen the text you sent me about this earlier today. I was wondering about... Yes. The media can legally lie to you through propaganda, CIA Operation Mocking. Yes. Check. The news does no good, Jordan says. Kind of like Fauci. They want electric cars so they can shut off our vehicles when they want. They are already trying to control how we spend our money. Indeed. Definitely. Another thing I want to mention about these electric cars from Tesla, and not just from Tesla, there's other companies too, but another thing I want to mention is that these cars have been blowing up out of nowhere. So you remember that incident with the Samsung Galaxy phones that were blowing up because it's lithium ion? Well, same thing goes for these vehicles. They're lithium ion, but guess what? They're very, very, very large lithium ion batteries. So you can imagine, I believe one person almost died. I don't have the article, but search it up yourself and you'll see that a man, his car literally blew up on him, and I think he was able to escape with a few injuries. But yeah, another woman, her Tesla battery blew up. There's been quite a few people who have Teslas that, their batteries blew up. So just wanted to mention that. And yes, they do want to control our money. They definitely do. Any way it goes, I'm not worried. The Lord is in control. As long as I trust in Him, I have no worries. Amen to that, bro. Yes. There is nothing to worry about. All we can do is make others aware. And yeah, you can hope for the best, but I would say do the best. Do what is right. Spread the good word. Spread the good news. Make people aware of certain things like this so that they can, make adjustments. He has proven this to me time and time again. Praise our Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. Indeed. Amen, Harvey. Worrying does not add one moment to the end of your life. Loyal Tangi says, yes, Chad, and the Smith-Mundt Act also. It allows all media to be used by government legally as domestic propaganda. It was revised in 2008. Right. JR says, hey, bro, Tyler, good evening, mods in chat. Good evening to you too, brother. Steve-O, welcome, Steve-O. Little Tandra, I agree the Smith-Mundt Act was one I had forgotten. But they can legally lie to us, and we don't know unless we do our own research. Yep. You're never going to know unless you do your own research. That's just the way it is. You can't take anything for face value. You can't just watch the news and just take the surface. You got to dig deeper than that. Satan wants us to worry because when we worry, we are not trusting our Father. Hello, JR. The whole frame of the car or bottom part of the car is the battery. It just doesn't make good sense. Yeah, I prefer the typical, old school gasoline, right? Michael the Archangel will help defeat evil once again. Oh, yeah. Hello, Chad Jones. All right, let's go back to the video. Shout out to Truth Unedited.
Dramatically, without real consequence. And the economies of the world have benefited because when they were in need, they could borrow money for free. That's the simple way of saying it. And so before we get to this present day where we are right now, you need to know that what happened in 2020 escalated everything even more. There were many different agendas that were accomplished during COVID, but we will focus on the one that is spoken about the least, which is the explosion in debt. It was actually 3 years ago, March 13th of 2020, in which I made this video, which explained this even before COVID really took off and they achieved all their other agendas. This video was What They Aren't Telling You. This is all about debt. And if you rewatch it, the video aged well. If you feel you are behind on this subject, then go back to this video and watch it next. This is why I say that if you have been following these videos over the years, none of this should surprise you. In that video, I explained the debt bubble and how they would use COVID to drastically increase the size of the debt bubble. And over the 3 years since that video, that is precisely what has happened. So what has happened is that debt levels have increased to ridiculous levels, and after 2022, when the Federal Reserve increased rates from 0% to 4% in 1 year, one of the fastest rate hikes in history, the world that has been addicted to free money is now having to pay for it, and now everything is coming to a complete halt. They manipulated the economy for over a decade with free money, getting people to adapt to a business model that was able to grow because of free, cheap money. And by consequence, this increased debt to levels the world has never seen before. And then it devalued the currency so that inflation is just as much a problem as debt is. And so now the central banks have to decide which problem they want to solve. But they cannot fix both. No matter what, we have a problem on our hands. And that is where we are right now. That is an oversimplified breakdown of the issue. So why do they do all this? For many people who live in the matrix, they actually believe that these governments and leaders actually care about the people, and they are all about making the world a better place. But if you are a Kodashim, which means a set-apart one, you should understand that that is a very naive way of viewing this world. The reality is that they have been working on an agenda of bringing the world together on the same path, so like dominoes, when one nation falls, they all fall after one another. They have been working to link the world financial system together so that it is all attached, so they won't have independent outliers.
I also want to mention this before I continue the video. If you have any kind of cryptocurrency, listen to me. I've been saying this since 2007. Get rid of your crypto. All right? Because it's not going to be worth anything by the time they implement CBDC. Okay? Just honestly, just take my word for it. Sell your Bitcoin. If you have Bitcoin, sell it. If you have Ethereum, sell it. Get your money back, and then you'll be able to convert that into digital dollars when CBDC launches. So keep that in mind.
Our nations not being affected by the troubles of the world. Everyone will be affected. They have been working on an agenda to completely link the world together so that they can make the system fall altogether, and then together they rebuild it stronger afterwards.
Everything they built will fall, and from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one.
We knew that despite all the diplomacy and the handshaking and the rhetoric, that to build a really better world sometimes means having to tear the old one down.
And while they've been working on doing that, they have been aggressively attacking our values and our morals so that the world is more satanically led with a value system of do what thou wilt, do what you want. They have been attacking our values and our morals while attacking the system that has been made to be the foundation of everyone's world. This is what they've been doing and what they've been taking so long to build. The only people that will not be affected by all this will be the set-apart ones, grounded in Yah's word and trusting in Yahuwah's promises, those that have made his kingdom and his system our foundation. But this is what we all been seeing, and so this brings me back to the beginning about following the mainstream media and their narrative. Because if you do not have this major understanding of the devil and the details behind this mainstream narrative, you will fall for their agenda and not realize that this is all happening by design, not by mistakes or simple oversights. This is by design. The world is being steered into a new system, and it will only be those solidified in their faith in Yah that will come out of it whole when everything is said and done. If you've been planning a life that's surrounded by debt, your mortgages or your student loans or loans for businesses, all those things about loans, you've been attaching your life to a system of debt that will fail. The plan is not sound. And that is why it's important to live in reality and not by following the ways of this world. But I digress. Let's look at what's happening. Over the past week, we had about 4 banks fail.
Abrupt closures of 3 banks in a matter of days that are now sending shockwaves across sectors of the economy and raising concerns about the U.S. banking system. It started last week with Silvergate Capital, a big player in the crypto industry. That market's recent collapse caused many of the bank's large customers to take out their money. Silvergate announced it would close its doors and sell whatever assets it had left. At the end of the week, those with large deposits in Silicon Valley Bank made big withdrawals based on fears SVB was running out of enough money to cover deposits. The fear fed on itself, and by Friday, the 16th largest bank in the nation could not keep up with the withdrawals and was seized by California regulators. Just 2 days later, New York state regulators shuttered Signature Bank, another victim of the crypto plunge. The volatile situation sent the stock prices of several banks plunging Monday as regulators moved to keep bank depositors from banks that are still open from losing faith in the wake of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse.
Now, there is a fourth bank, First Republic Bank, that they are conveniently leaving out of mainstream attention right now, but it's still right in the mix. And then we had Biden come on and tell everyone it's all good, that our money's all safe, telling us that the banking system is safe and protected. Why? Because they're protecting it.
Today, thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well. Last week, when we learned of the problems of the banks and the impact they could have on jobs of small businesses and banking system overall, I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests. They've done that. They've done that.
And so, again, as I have repeatedly been saying, it's all about who you trust and who you believe in. Most people in this world, even though they don't want to believe in this obviously not well man, they want to believe in the system, so they will believe him. But those who believe in Yah and understand the word, they know that the system has to collapse so that the world can move forward into judgment. No one's money is safe unless you're at the top of the class. And even these people, the kings of the earth, will only be safe for a short period of time. But here is what is not being said. While they're saying that your money is safe, they're not calling it a bailout. They still are bailing out these banks. They say it's not a bailout because they say it's not taxpayer money, but it's corporations' monies that are propping up these banks. But it's semantics. They don't want to say bailout, but they're doing a bailout. These banks are being bailed out currently. Listen.
It was a weekend that reminded a lot of folks of the troubling times, the tumultuous times of the great financial crisis. Regulators scrambling to shore up a fragile banking system, taking several historic steps to avoid a banking crisis. Investors asking themselves this morning, did they succeed? The failure Friday of Silicon Valley Bank, it was the second largest failure in U.S. history, what some call the first bank run of the digital age because the concern was created by tweets. It created the risk of a broader run on small and regional banks throughout the country, and that companies with their money in SVB wouldn't be able to operate or make payroll this morning. Looks like now none of that's going to happen, with a caveat, Andrew, a source of mine telling me it's not always that smooth. So here's what officials did. They guaranteed deposit at SVB. They shut down Signature Bank. Also, as Becky said earlier, there's new financing at First Republic. You can be sure regulators made that happen. They guaranteed all uninsured deposits, folks. If you're uninsured at a bank, you're guaranteed, at least for a period of time here. And they created a new Federal Reserve Fund that will finance bank assets. They eased lending rules at the emergency discount window to make it less expensive to borrow there. Officials said they took these actions to avert a situation where uninsured depositors would pull their money from essentially healthy banks, and the nation's deposits ended up only in big banks. They insisted the banking system is strong and well capitalized.
You see, what they have said might have gone over your heads if you're not familiar with a lot of their terminology and those actions. But let's just keep it simple. If people didn't lose their money, even though the bank doesn't have their money, it's because the government has stepped in to make sure that no one loses their money. And that is called a bailout. These banks that failed don't have the customer's money. So the government is providing the liquidity for these banks. And believe me, this is the same for all banking, especially in the United States. The banks don't have your money. They loan it out and do whatever they want with it. That's how banking works. And what happens with these bailouts is that these companies, these banks, they get rewarded for gambling with your money because they're not really actually holding your money in the banks. This is an illusion. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. What I'm trying to say is that the government has been bailing out these banks so far. In a free market, the way the market is supposed to work is that when there's problems, you let these banks or these companies fail and let the market sort itself out. But what the government has been doing since 2008 is not letting anyone fail. You remember those words, too big to fail. They say that's too big to fail because it's going to affect everyone, and they don't want that to happen. So they just make the problem bigger and bigger, kicking the can down the road until the whole system implodes, because they can't save the system forever. Eventually, even if they did do that, it goes back to the dollar, because all they're doing is continuously printing dollars and dollars, saying that they're going to provide liquidity. But when they do that, they're pumping more money into the system, which increases inflation and devalues your currency. This never fixes anything. This is what I'm trying to say. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me slow down. As a part of their narrative, the whole United States banking system has been given a negative outlook by Moody's rating agency.
Moody's Investor Service downgraded the entire U.S. banking system from stable to negative on Tuesday, citing a rapidly deteriorating environment. And the White House is monitoring other mid-sized and smaller banks for signs of weakness 3 days after the collapse of Silicon Valley and Signature banks.
As it was explained in this CNBC News article, in its downgrade of the entire sector, the rating agency noted the extraordinary actions taken to shore up impacted banks. But it said other institutions with unrealized losses or uninsured depositors still could be at risk. We expect pressures to persist and be exacerbated by ongoing monetary policy tightening, with interest rates likely to remain higher for longer until inflation returns to within the Fed's target range, Moody's said. U.S. banks also now are facing sharply rising deposit costs after years of low funding costs, which will reduce earnings at banks, particularly those with a greater proportion of fixed-rate assets. The firm said it expects the United States economy to fall into recession later this year, further pressuring the industry. They keep telling us they expect problems on the way, but most people still are not ready for it. Either way, the banking system is under attack, and this is all a part of the overall agenda that is coming into view. But what does this mean for all of us? It all depends on how tightly you are held to this world, because what they want is for people to run in fear. The same as what happened with COVID, they want people to move in fear. So what will probably happen is an escalation of this banking crisis all the way until people are moved into complete fear and panic and bank runs start. They want people to take their money out the banks because it will greatly reduce their conversions into the central bank digital currencies. And it will also be a scapegoat for the coming collapse. They'll blame us for taking the money out. But if you understand where this world is going, you don't have to fall for these fake narratives and these lies. Please know and understand that the next system has already been built. I've explained this thoroughly in my What to Expect in 2023 video. Right now, you're just seeing a prelude to it all. You're seeing the buildup of it. This banking crisis leads to the new narrative for the central bank digital currencies to be introduced once the full collapse happens. Once everybody loses everything, they will find a new way to introduce the new system. So in the meantime, until we get to that, everyone will be provoked by fear and worry about their financial future and their money. And this is one way that the wheat will be again separated from the tares. For the people that have placed their hope and trust in their finances while still proclaiming their faith in Yah, your faith is going to be tested. Those who are worrying about what they're going to lose and what will happen with their money and their possessions, most of them will go right along with where the system is taking everyone else. And that is why it is so important to have the proper perspective on what is going on and know exactly who sustains you. If you're scared or worried about losing everything, not only is that going to happen to you, but you're also going to be led by fear right into a satanic agenda and the traps by the enemy. Let me tell you that as these things are happening, You should only be focusing on Yah and making sure you have been building your faith up in Him, building your trust up in Him. Everything you have and own is temporary. You're not taking it with you. If you're not willing to walk away from it all, then you're not ready for what's coming. But let's continue. I believe the next leg of this banking crisis will start from what happens with Credit Suisse Bank.
So I had to pause it right there real quick because, like he said, everything that we do on this earth is temporary. Okay? So I get that it's necessary at certain times to spend a whole lot of energy on certain things, especially when it comes to taking care of your family, you know, or if it's anything to do with spreading the word of God. So I get that you have to spend a lot of energy to do stuff like that, but try your best. And I speak for myself too. I will continue to strive for what is righteous and true, and to not stress over it. Because just like Truth Unedited said, and I also agree, this is a temporary life. Okay? There's no way around that. And that's one thing we can all agree with. Every single one of us. We can all agree on that. And that being said, shouldn't that make you think, okay, so I'm spending a whole lot of energy on this. I'm spending a whole lot of, okay, what about this? What about that? What about when you die? I mean, perhaps some people don't care. Perhaps some people just don't care about what happens after death. But I beg to differ, because I care about my salvation. I care about where my spirit is going to go. It is illogical to think that we go nowhere after death. It literally is. You can search here and far, and you know what? You're going to come to the conclusion through the Word of God. Like I say, and I'm going to always say it, man, and this is true. I went from being a Pentecostal Christian to atheist, to Mormonism, to atheist again, back to Christianity. But this time as the whole truth. At least for the most part. From what I know so far. But keep that in your minds, guys. Keep that in your mind and understand that, just like Truth Unedited said, this is a temporary life. You cannot take a U-Haul with you upon death. You can't put a U-Haul behind a hearse, in the words of Denzel. You cannot put a U-Haul behind a hearse. It just doesn't work that way, man. So that should make you realize and understand that, okay, I hold on to these things, right? I'm holding on to this, I'm holding on to that. Like, oh man, this is my precious, right? Kind of like Smeagol, how he feels about the ring. You know, the ring on Smeagol's hand. Oh, my precious. Right? That probably wasn't a good impression. But you guys know what I mean. And this is why, for me, and this is just for me, I'm very easy to let things go. I'm very easy to let things go. Whether it be a vehicle, whether it be some kind of electronic, or whatever it may be. Because I know I don't truly own it. Yeah, you can purchase a vehicle. Yeah, you can purchase a house, and you can think that you own it. You can think, first of all, if you're paying a mortgage, the bank owns it, not you. And for the most part, you're paying a monthly payment to your vehicle, plus insurance. So technically you don't own it until it's paid off. But even then, even after you pay it off, you really think you own it? What does ownership truly mean? To own something. So what, you own the vehicle, but then when you die, you pass it down to your child? Seems to me that you lost ownership. Or maybe there just wasn't any ownership to begin with. And one can say that ownership is temporary, but like I said, true ownership. What does it mean to truly own something? In my honest opinion, I'll put it this way. Christ, when he was praying to the Father, the high priestly prayer, John 17, and he was talking to the Father, and he was telling the Father, Father, the same glory that you have given me, I will give to them, because they were mine from the beginning. Not only do I speak of these men, the disciples, but also for those who choose to follow me. I mean, I'm not paraphrasing it very well, but you guys get the point, hopefully. That's ownership. In my honest opinion, ownership is eternal. It's something that you own for eternity. You take it. It's yours. And you will never lose it. Salvation. Salvation. You take it. How do you take it? You allow the Father to direct you. Because we can't do things on our own. We can't do things on our own. We must allow the Father. First of all, we need to humble ourselves. And if there's any humility that goes along with it, then let that be so. But once you get those things done, then you allow the Father to direct you, guide you. What is true ownership? I don't truly own this mic. This mic will perish. My flesh will perish. The laptop that I'm using to go live on YouTube will perish. Your smartphone will perish. Everything. So in my honest opinion, I don't own any of this. It's false. It's false ownership. Because these things are going to die. And so is my flesh. True ownership lies within salvation. Eternity. Sorry for going off on a whole. I'm not going to call that a rant. I don't believe it was a rant. But forgive me for taking up so much time. Anyways, let's go to the chat and then we'll continue the video. Harvey says, hi, JR. I noticed on Cash App, almost all stocks were down. Yep. Hi, Harvey. Greetala, get rid of the Bitcoin. Yeah. I've got a few family members who have some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. And I told them, those things are going to crash. Those things are going to be worth nothing. So stop gambling and just sell your Bitcoin or Ethereum, XRP, whatever you have. Get your money back, all right? So that you can convert it into digital dollars when they do implement it. Raven says, over the years, I have grown to distrust the digital world. It's all very unreliable. So I won't do digital anything. I feel you on that, Raven. But to be honest with you, and quite frank, everything is unreliable when it comes to this government. None of it is reliable. Until you get to the kingdom of God, then we can call that reliable. in my honest opinion. Glad to make it finally, says JR. Just been on a weird schedule in areas with no towers. No, I get you, bro. I get you, man. What you do is pretty hard work, and it's very interesting. And it relates to some of the things that I and my subscribers and my fellow YouTubers discuss. So, yeah, no worries, bro. Glad you made it, JR. I see all politicians as professional, paid liars now. Definitely. Good evening, brother. Faith and trust in our Father and Son, Jesus Christ, are more important than any amount of money, digital or paper. Yes. I see some of the operations inside the gold mines. They are obviously still mining during this time, and it's funny how they have these big machines and equipment still planning to operate. Interesting. Would love for you to elaborate on that. And if you ever want to do a podcast together, bro, discussing that topic, I would love to. Just let me know when if you ever do want to do that. I'm convinced watchers have led some of these engineers to be able to build these big mills because they are quite large and unique. Wow. Yes. I'm glad that you understand and know that now, bro. Elon. Speaking of Elon, that's the next topic. I believe we get almost all of our technology from fallen angels. About that, I was going to put this in my first video on my second channel, but oh well. I'll spill it here, but you guys probably know this too, but the 4 angels that were locked up in the Euphrates, when they were released, this is just my opinion and some of my fellow YouTubers, after discussing with them, those 4 angels, one of them being Shemyaza, are quite possibly the ones who have something to do with these structures, or aka machines. So just keep that in mind. Possible person, not sure what you mean by that. Amen, Harvey, trust in the Lord. Chad Jones, I agree. Psalm 71, in ye, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be put into confusion. Amen to that. JR says, amen, Harvey. Why are these mine sites still collecting minerals? With all the shutdowns going on, we are scheduled to maintain a few well into the next year. Mostly gold, copper, and silver. Yeah, those of you who don't know, JR is my brother-in-law, and he works for mining sites. You know, those huge machines. So a lot of the stuff that he does relate to some of the topics, especially like mud flood type stuff. If he ever goes that deep, but very interesting stuff. Spot on, Chad. Sorry I had the psalm number wrong, but it's definitely in there. I'm looking now. It was my favorite verse. Psalms is a good book. Armored Raven says, fear is the mind killer. It is a little death that brings total obliteration. I definitely agree with that. That's their weapon, right? That's the enemy's weapon, is fear. But once you overcome that fear, the enemy begins to fear you. He trembles. 100%. We likes it raw. Smeag or Gollum. Yes. Yep. When I found out I didn't actually own my land, I sold it. I didn't realize I was just paying taxes, was basically rent. Yeah, there is something about gold and silver. They want us to believe gold and silver were valuable in the past because of making jewelry, but I'm not buying it. No pun intended. Yeah, but there's a whole lot more to gold and silver and these expensive elements than you think. There's a reason why they're valuable. It's not because it looks, all glittery and all shiny and, that's not the reason. There's definitely a reason behind why it is very valuable. Like diamonds, sapphire, emerald, and silver and gold. There's a reason. For example, a lot of these cathedrals, some of them are made out of copper or gold. within it, within the structures. I put my money on the Lord, and where He tells to spend it. Peace out, Cub Scouts. I need sleep. God bless you all. Sleep well, brother. Sleep well, brother. Good night, Armored Raven. Good to have chatted with you. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. The only reliability we have is Jesus Christ. Samyaza taught root cutting, I believe. I heard the name Samyaza and Enoch one. Alright. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and skip on over to the next topic. So, this one's going to be pretty quick. I'm not going to play too much of it, but it's about the Tesla homes. So, check this out.
The Tesla founder and CEO has just unveiled a $10,000 house which is promising to revolutionize the real estate sector. How big is this new house? What is it made of? What utilities does it offer? And does the Tesla billionaire own one? Join me today in this video as we explore everything to do with Elon Musk's $10,000 house that has hit the market by storm. There are many companies which the Tesla CEO founded before his housing company. His aim? To make life sustainable and comfortable on the blue planet. He recently founded the Boring Company, whose aim is to reduce traffic for the busy American citizens who need to catch up with pressing businesses. He aims also to go beyond Earth as he plans to make life multiplanetary, as his core aim is to help humanity. In fact, Musk stopped all Tesla payments using Bitcoin because Bitcoin uses a lot of computational power, which is powered by fossil fuels. According to Musk, fossil fuel is the worst human experiment by far. Consequently, due to the core values of Tesla, they withdrew all Tesla payments using Bitcoin. So this is a man who practices what he preaches. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that he decided to launch a sustainable housing plan through the Boxable Company. They are way different from traditional houses and might soon change how we view housing in the near future. By now, we have seen what Musk is capable of doing, and his $10,000 house does not disappoint. But first things first. What is Boxable? Boxable is a tremendously innovative company that helps to solve the problem of affordable housing and homelessness. This company may be new to you, as it is not often mentioned among Elon's most popular companies, when in fact it is part of Tesla. The good thing is, now you are in the know. The company was co-founded by Galliano Tiramani and his father, Paolo Tiramani, who is the current CEO. Previously referred to as Casito, the company has spent less than 7 years in the market since its founding year in 2017. The two founders wanted to make housing sustainable by providing a better, cheaper, and faster way of making houses by making construction compatible with assembly line mass production. When Musk joined the Boxable team, he introduced even better ideas that made the product worth spending all of your fortune. Up to the time Boxable was being formed, several attempts to make sustainable houses were weak and not as revolutionary. However, Paolo Tiramani came up with the original idea of making foldable houses. To achieve this, he built a house using factory-built room modules. Unfortunately, he encountered many problems related to shipping the houses. As it turned out, the houses were quite oversized to fit on the highway. This is the same reason why most factory-built housing have failed to scale up.
So hopefully you guys see what I'm trying to show you guys here. It is these small Tesla homes, and they're foldable, as you can see within this video. But you can kind of see where the world is going. At least I think so. You know, it could just be propaganda, or, you know, but if this is the case, you know, there's a reason why Tesla is, of course, he did the electric cars, and now he's doing these tiny homes. And I think one of the reasons is, of course, control. If you don't pay your rent or whatever, they can probably just shut it off remotely, you know, so, because these little homes are kind of like smart homes. At least that's what they say. But yeah, that's one thing I thought you guys would find interesting. Another thing I wanted to talk about with Elon Musk was a little bit of the AI stuff that he was talking about in this video. So check this out.
You know, it's quite a dangerous technology, and I fear I may have done some things to accelerate it, which is, I don't know.
Usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death.
Are you honestly, legitimately concerned about this? Is like AI one of your main worries in regards to the future?
Yes, it's less of a worry than it used to be, mostly due to taking more of a fatalistic attitude.
So you used to have more hope, and you gave up some of it, and now you don't worry as much about AI. You're like, this is just what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, yes. Yes, no, but no, it's not necessarily bad. It's definitely going to be outside of human control.
Not necessarily bad, right?
Yeah, it's not necessarily bad. It's just outside of human control. Now, the thing that's going to be tricky here is that it's going to be very tempting to use AI as a weapon. It's going to be very tempting. In fact, it will be used as a weapon. So the on-ramp to serious AI, the danger is going to be more humans using it against each other, I think, most likely. That'll be the danger. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
This seems like a scene in a movie where the robots are going to fucking take over.
He says nobody listens.
Prepare for the worst. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst. Don't get too adventurous. We see this coming to an end pretty soon, and then a month later, it was like, a nightmare, basically. Well, I think it's more like it does seem like we're headed into a recession here in 2023. The magnitude of that recession is debatable, but I think it's at least a light to moderate recession. Potentially, it's on the order of 2009. So I think it's wise to kind of like.
So alongside AI, I also wanted you guys to hear a few words that Elon was talking about when it comes to declining birth rate. So basically population control. So check this out.
There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. You know, if life was a video game, what would be the review? It's like, well, the graphics are incredible. The plot is confusing. The respawn takes a long time. You know, that's a video game. That's life. If life was a video game, respawn takes 20 years to spawn a human being and have them be fully conscious. I'm worried about the birth rate, which you alluded to earlier. The contrary to most people think we have like too many people on the planet, but actually this is an outdated view. This is assuming that AI is fine, assuming that there's a benevolent future with AI. I think that the biggest problem the world will face in 20 years is population collapse. I want to emphasize this. The biggest issue in 20 years will be population collapse. Not explosion, collapse. It's very easy to see what the world will look like in 20 years because humans have a 20-year boot sequence. So like you say, okay, well, who was born last year? Okay, now you know what the world looked like in 20 years. It's that easy. AI is certainly one of the biggest risks. It could be the biggest risk. I think we need to watch out about population collapse. This is somewhat counterintuitive to most people. They think that, well, there's so many humans, maybe too many humans, but that's just because they live in a city. If you're in an aircraft and you look down, they say, if you dropped a cannonball, how often would you hit a person? Basically never.
Exactly. He's making some really good points here.
In fact, there's stuff falling in from space all the time. Natural meteorites, old rocket stages, all the time.
And keep in mind, when Tesla is saying, I mean, not Tesla, Elon, when Elon is saying stuff is falling from space, keep in mind, he's really talking about beneath the firmament. So literally right under the firmament. That is what we call the expanse. Okay, it's like a huge open air where they have satellites, but it's not the satellites that you think of. They are actually like parachutes with cameras on it and other stuff. But yeah, it's not the satellites that you think.
But nobody worries about it because the actual, in fact, there's a good cool website called Wait But Why, and this guy Tim Urban, like, he actually just did the math, and all humans on Earth could fit in the city of New York on one floor.
Now that's crazy. You hear what he just said? Let me rewind that.
He actually just did the math, and all humans on Earth could fit in the city of New York on one floor.
On one floor. All humans in the earth right now, according to Elon, he says all humans on earth right now could fit in the city of New York on one floor. That's crazy. This is how you know it's such a lie when they say that, oh yeah, we need to do population control because there's so many, there's too many people. We're overpopulated. No, we're not. We're not even close. I don't think we've ever been close. Ever since the reset. Ever since the 1850s and 60s, since the reset, we've never gotten even that close. Not even close to be overpopulated. It's ridiculous. Do you know how many deserted places are on this earth that we haven't even been to? You got acres and acres and acres and acres of land not even being used. It's crazy, man. Let's go to the chat real quick. I watched an interview with a super soldier, Max Spires, I think, and he said gold was used in supernatural type battles. Something about the spirit couldn't pass through it. Oh, interesting. Please share that with me, Chad. That's very interesting, Chad. I will have to pray and look into that. Yes, same here. I would be afraid to live in her house that folded up like that. Seriously. Yeah. But like I said, that just goes to show where our future is going, right? If there is one. It's on YouTube, I think. It was called An Interview with a Super Soldier, Max Spires, or Spears. I may have his name wrong or misspelled. Okay, I'll look into it. I will check it out then. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, bro. No problem. It's a 2.5 hour interview. Okay, right on. Anyone notice the Chinese spy balloon looked exactly like a satellite on a helium balloon? Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, Loa Tanji says, yeah, Chad Jones seems like a cover-up for not paying the helium bill. That's hilarious. Overpopulation is as fake as the moon landing. Oh, yeah. Yep. All right, let's continue this.
Don't even need the upper floors. So that's actually, the cross-section of humans as seen from Earth is extremely tiny, basically vanishingly small, almost nothing. So we need to watch out about population collapse. Low birth rates, I think, is a big risk. And it's also not exactly top secret. You can go look at the Wikipedia, birth rate. So, and this is actually this is definitely the civilization ends with a whimper, not a bang, because it would be a sad ending, where the average age becomes very high, and really the youth are effectively.
Speaking of the average age, did you guys know? This is a fun fact, well, at least according to what statistics say. But did you guys know that in Okinawa, Japan, that's where they have the most people that live the longest? So I guess 90% of their population will, or 90, I think it's about 80% of their population lives past 100. So 80 years old is considered young in Okinawa. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
De facto enslaved to take care of the old people. This is not a good way to end.
Yeah, it's not.
It is a prevalent mind virus, and arguably one of the biggest threats to modern civilization.
Also, not having enough kids, right?
Yeah, I think most people, if you just simply look at the birth rate statistics, you can tell what the future is going to be like because you can see how many children were born last year.
I mean, when I first heard about overpopulation, the first thing that came to my mind was, like, before stumbling across all these truths or even dabbling into it, the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about overpopulation was the government not being able to support and supply, supply and demand. They didn't have the resources, enough resources to feed or to distribute, supplies needed when it comes to living in the program. Basically, they couldn't afford it. But I could be wrong. Maybe it was just, again, propaganda. Or they, have an agenda behind it all. So it's 1 a.m. here, brothers. I'm going to check out. Love you all. God bless. Likewise, brother. Night, Harvey. To you, Harvey Fry. So, yeah. Population control, guys. That is evil, in my honest opinion. And Bill Gates deserves to be punished, in my honest opinion, for what he is doing when it comes to population control. And yeah, I this is one thing that I believe when it comes to Elon, the declining birth rate. And then it's just messed up too if you think about it, because all this abortion crap, right? They want to legalize abortion, and they don't even know that we're already declining when it comes to birth rate. So it's just messed up. But then again, we're not in the kingdom of God yet. This is temporary. The last thing I wanted to talk about and discuss is going to be pretty quick and quite funny, quite hilarious if you ask me, because it's a bunch of BS. Has to do with none other than Mr. Donald J. Trump.
Right now, we do have some breaking news to get to. Former President Donald Trump posted on his Truth social account that he expects to be arrested on Tuesday. This comes as a New York prosecutor is viewing charges in a case where hush money was paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential elections. Trump is urging his followers to protest. New York law enforcement officials have been making security preparations in case Trump is indicted. ABC News has not verified the claims, and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has not commented about the post or possible arrest.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe.
So yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to share with you guys. I thought it was quite hilarious. I mean, come on. We all know that Donald Trump is not really going to prison, man. He's not really going to jail. They obviously have an agenda behind this stuff. And, you know, I don't know what it is, but yes, it is. It is definitely a circus. The Lord says, be fruitful and multiply. Indeed. But yeah, Leo Tangi, you are 100% correct. It is nothing but a circus. And it's crazy because you got a whole bunch of Donald Trump supporters, diehard supporters, who are going bonkers. They're going crazy. A lot of them are even thinking about protesting because he's supposedly going to jail. A bunch of BS. It's a bunch of baloney, man. Again, I don't know the agenda behind it, but come on. He's not going to jail. Yep, any publicity is good publicity. Definitely. And if you guys have any thoughts on the reason why they want the media, the people to know that Donald Trump is going to jail, if you guys have any reason why, feel free to share it in the chat or the comments down below for the replay gang. If only people were as faithful to Yeshua as they are to Trump. Right. Welcome, man with no name. Good to see you. You came right at the very end. We are well over the 2-hour mark for this Saturday night live stream hangout. And I think I am going to call it. Appreciate you guys all joining the live stream and spending this night with me. I truly do appreciate it. Again, if you would like to support this channel, and feel free to either join the membership or donate. The donation links are in the description box below. Whatever. It's up to you. I appreciate you guys all once again. And as always, hold up. Please don't forget to like the video because that helps the algorithm and helps my videos get pushed out to the people. And he texted something about protests. They're already saying it will be just like the Capitol thing. I don't trust either side anymore, only God. Yes. Confusion for all sides. Dig in. Left or right. Let's all fight. LOL. So the politicians all win and we always lose. Not until they go to hell. And we go to the kingdom. This is why we must fight for what is righteous. So we end up on the righteous side. Good night, everyone. Have a blessed day tomorrow. Likewise, JR. It was nice having you with us tonight. Good night, everybody. Give a thumbs up. Yes, please do that. Night, Chad Jones. Thanks, Tala. Good night, everyone. Good night, Loyal Tangi. Nice having you tonight. And hit the like button on the way out. Thanks. Yes, please do that. So, yeah. Thank you once again. And as always, you guys be safe out there. Be blessed. Until next time.
You say one word, I say amazing. You say one word, I say amazing.